Welcome, beautiful beings, change makers, and giants from around the world. We've got another great masterclass for you. We're going to give you a minute to tune in, so hang tight. All right, welcome, beings. I don't even know what to call them, Rose. Do we call them beings?
Human beings.
Welcome, humans. I think we're all humans here. We're live for another masterclass on the TUB 24 event that's coming up in May in the UK in Birmingham. Before we dive into this, we've got another great guest today. But Rose, will you take us through any housekeeping?
Of course. So I'm going to pop the links to the event that's taking place on the 25th and 26th of May, Saturday and Sunday in Birmingham. We have a number of different tickets available at different price points. And really, it's bringing to life the fact that you are a co-creator of this event. The event has no budget, it has no funding. So the tickets that have been sold to date are paying for the venue. And all the speakers are buying their own tickets, have bought their own tickets. All the members of the organization team have bought their tickets. So we're all contributing to creating this event. And really, it's all about you. And I have no doubt that that's what Martine will be speaking to a little bit today. The proceeds from the event, so any money that is raised that's not used to pay for the venue, is going to be going to the Birmingham Children's Hospital, the auditory unit, to support children, some of whom have been born deaf, to be able to hear some for the first time or to improve their hearing. So it's a noble cause. And we're really here to do this to be of service to people who are looking to expand what's possible in their lives. And in that, create ripples for others. I'm going to finish there.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I just put the link in the comments. So if you guys can see that there, I'll pull that up real quick. But make sure you grab your tickets. So this will be an outstanding event. It'll be for you. So when you come to the event, this is going to be change or life changing for you in your own world. It will make a difference for the children. But primarily this is all about you. I think that's where the message comes from on the being movement is we're trying to get to the core of you. We've got a lot of people joining us from all over the world. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Matt Evans is here. What's up? Hey, people. If you guys give permission to StreamYard, you can put your names in so we know who we're talking with. But otherwise, we're grateful to have you. So, Rose, we'll put you to the back room here if that works.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us. And Martine, I'm going to go ahead and do a brief introduction for you. Today, we're honored to have Martine Cannon. She's an acclaimed international speaker, a C-suite. She's C-suite too. She's sweet. She's a transformation coach and expert in organization development. Martine's unique journey through the corridors of power in multinational corporations has given her profound insights into the secret grace found in struggle. Her exceptional storytelling ability brings to light the untold wisdom from the boardrooms of global market leaders, discussing how challenges in leadership, culture, and performance can be transformative. Martine is more than just a coach. She is a beacon of inspiration, discussing how purpose-led business and the power of love can be the most significant renewable resources for high-performing teams. Her expertise in leading world-class executives and CEOs to uncover hidden value and potential is unparalleled. In our conversation today, we will uncover how Martine navigates the complexities of conflict resolution, ethical dilemmas, and issues impacting our world, all while guiding her clients from successful outcomes to achieving the beyond possible. So join us as we dive deep into the secret grace in struggle, a journey that promises to enlighten and transform our understanding of what it means to live what we call a giant life. Martine, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. What a gracious introduction. I can't say how delighted I am to be here. People's comments coming in saying hello, lots of people I know and probably lots of people I don't know, but look forward to meeting.
Yeah, beautiful. We're going to dive in. I think what I'd like to start with you is what it means to be. If we can start there, what is that term? We use it pretty lightly now. What does that mean?
It's something I've been studying for over 20 years now, and I would say for me, being is everything. It's a ground of existence, and when I say it's everything from the tables, the chairs, the buildings around us, and it's who we are. It's the background and the ground of who we are. We're in contact with being. We're in flow. We're expressing our highest potential. Life feels effortless. Our hearts are open. Our minds are clear, and when we get disconnected from being, life can feel significantly more difficult. So being is everything.
It's a space of clarity. I mean, everything comes from that.
It's even more than a space of clarity, because the mind can have clarity, but it's the heart in us that has the knowing. So I don't know if you've ever experienced that, when you know something to be true. You categorically know it to be true. You don't know it in your head to be true. You know it in your heart to be true, because you feel it. You feel the resonant truth in what somebody is saying. So being, when we're in contact with being, we're feeling the love. We're feeling the ground of being that we are. We're in connection with all of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody were to read this book, right, this is where a lot of this originates from, this book, The Ultimate Coach. Why should they read that? What does that teach them about being? And then we're going to dive into your philosophies too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Yep.
You know what, when I first, obviously written by Amy, and it's a book about Steve's life. That book is one person's journey towards discovering who they really are. And what I learned from Steve, when I first met him, I went over there and I did a Be With session with him, which is just a one-to-one session with him, where you spend a couple of hours with him. And in that first session, I thought, this isn't the greatest coach I've ever met. And my head, I'd heard all of these people talking about this, Steve Allison chap, and what a brilliant coach he was, and having written testimonials about how incredible he was. And I was like, he's not that good. But there was another part of me, my heart, which knew that that man was coming from a place inside of himself, which I didn't understand inside of myself. And that's what had me go and start having coaching with Steve. So it's one man's journey to discovering the true nature of who he really is. And through that transformational 2 years, which I had with him, I discovered the same secret, that same part of myself, that is the knowing that I am being. So if somebody picks up that book and you want to know who you really are, if you've ever wondered who you really are, or not felt that you're living and being all of who you really are, that book will tell you the stories of one man's journey towards discovering the answer to that. And I'll tell you categorically, when you discover who you are, you rest so deeply into an inner peace and a love and a grace and a beauty, and an experience for life, no matter what shows up, no matter what struggles reveal themselves. You know that everything's perfect. Why? Because you are.
Yeah, let's dive into your journey, because you mentioned that word, that this is a book about his journey, and it's a sampling of what's possible for people, right?
Exactly.
And when somebody comes from the heart like that, from their being, from their core, their essence, life can't help but change. And so I want to look at, we chose the topic here, the hidden grace and struggle.
To that. It's like life can't help but change. It's because we get into the river and the flow of life. And most of the time when we're experiencing things as being tricky or hard, we've kind of fallen out of flow of life. And we start to take ourselves to be someone other than we're not. And being is being in the movement of our life, being in our true nature, connected to who we really are.
Yeah. How does somebody do? Well, let's talk about you doing that. Let's go into your life as an example of that, because we have the book as a sampling, but what we're going to do today is your life is going to be a sampling of this. And if we look at peace as really the goal is most of us want peace more than we want anything. We want that peace, and that peace comes from that knowingness of who we are.
Yeah.
And I would imagine in your life there may have been a time where you weren't in that peace. Is that accurate? That you
Absolutely.
had some struggles? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to pick that up and take it somewhere with it?
More than one. I've
Yeah.
got the world record for moments in life of not being at peace and it being in profound struggle, and swimming upstream and not knowing what to do or how to do it. And I'd say, my journey, and Steve accompanied me on this, my biggest struggles that I had was to do with my personal health.
Okay.
And that every other area of my life, I could experience, I was pretty successful, good relationships, close network of friends, successful business. But the way in which I was going about it involved an enormous amount of effort or efforting. And what I couldn't do was effort my way to health. When you have cancer and when you have spinal tumors and you have prolapsed discs in your neck, the struggle is not going to get you there. So I'd say, I had a epiphany moment in the time when I was working with Steve, where I think we're working on every other area in my life, but the health thing eluded me. And I went and I had a back procedure done. It was quite a serious procedure, which I had done. And I got home after having had that procedure done. And I probably hadn't realized how hard it was going to be when I got home. I kind of assumed that I would be able to, in a couple of hours, get up, cook my daughter dinner, drop her at school the next day, go to work. And I found myself lying on the sofa, unable to move, literally. And it dawned on me that there was no will in the world, no battle, like no strength in me that could get me up and do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And it was in that, efforting. Yeah, exactly. It was in that moment that I had the experience of being utterly helpless. And that's when I recognized my superpower is strength to push on and get through things. But in that moment, I couldn't do it. And there is something profound that happens when you can't make yourself do something.
Yeah.
With all the will.
Let's hang here for a minute, because there's some gold right here. The idea that we can work ourselves out of a situation, that we can effort ourselves into a solution.
Yeah.
And you talked about the flow, right? There's a surrendering to what is, there's a surrendering to the situation, there's a surrendering to not having the power, right? To be able to effort yourself out of it. I'm going to share an example real quick and I'll turn it back over. Angie Garb Barnett, who's a friend of ours, was on our show. She broke her leg skiing, and they did surgery and they messed up and it got infected and they had to amputate her leg. And 43 amputations or surgeries later, she will never get that leg back. She had to adjust and adapt to her life, and no amount of efforting would change that scenario. And so it brings me to this idea of this deep acceptance of what is, and maybe you can help me with this, of surrendering, right? To what is. Can you speak to that?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. When I was on that sofa and I was experiencing the feelings of being utterly helpless, I received a call from somebody who was a recently new friend of mine. I'd moved to a new village. I didn't know very many people, but there was this one new friend from my daughter's school who knew that I was going in to have this back procedure done. And at that moment, when I was feeling utterly helpless to help myself, she said to me, she called and she said, I know you've just had this procedure done. Can I help you? Do you need me to drop any food off? Can I drop your daughter at school? What do you need? And I was so caught up with emotion and so upset, the fact I couldn't do anything. I was utterly helpless. I heard myself saying to her, no, I'm fine. And then there was this instantaneous thing where I knew that the level of authenticity that I was having with myself in that moment was heartbreaking.
Oh.
So I felt the feeling then of being able to stay with the situation, being utterly helpless, and say to her, yeah, I need support. But it was in that moment, Nick, that I recognized that my story my whole life had been, I'm not supported.
Mm. Yeah. And if you asked for help, that story couldn't exist, right?
Exactly.
Mm.
But what it required was actually allowing myself to feel fully that the state of helplessness that I was in that moment, and to stay with it. And I think that's one of the hardest things for us as human beings, is actually to allow ourselves to stay in the feelings that are hardest for us to feel long enough for us to, like you said, fully surrender. That when we do fully surrender, we get back in contact with reality. Not the idea that life's not supporting me, not the idea that I'm helpless, I can't do anything. The reality hit me in the face, like, I don't think I'm supported. And this woman's physically on the other end of the phone, who I hardly know, Georgina Walsh, thank you, and supporting me. And in that moment, I was like, I had this like veil lifted, and I was like, there is so much support around me in my life and in the world. Everyone's been knocking at my door with support, and I haven't been able to see it, let alone receive it.
Mm.
There's a secondary grace in this thing here, because I recognize that when I began to let people support me, it gave them the biggest gift that they'd always been wanting to give to me.
Mm.
The people that loved me most in my life had been trying to look after me for a long time. And I began to allow them to be able to do that. So I got a gift, they got a gift, and even more, I'll stop in a minute, but it's
No, you're good. You're good.
even more than that. I'm a coach. What's my job? To support people, to allow people to be in their struggles. I couldn't allow myself to be fully in my own struggle, fully in the helplessness that I was in that moment. So once I was able to do that and recognize the truth is, I can feel helpless and all of the support is actually there, and be in contact with that, I was able to be with my clients in a way that I could allow them to be in the depth of their helplessness and sit with them.
Yeah.
Sit with them long enough that they didn't need to muscle their way through it or around it, that we could stay there long enough that they could have the experience that, boom, the grace is there. When you think that you're at the end of the road and you give it space and you breathe space into it, miracles show up. And everyone finds their way from that point. But we can't do the doing. We have to allow the relaxing back deeply into the ground of being, into the ground of who we are. And then grace turns up and shows us the way. I could tell you countless stories myself.
I think we're going to hit on some of them today.
Yeah.
The idea that's coming to mind here as you're sharing this is that you had a way of being that you thought was you. And that way of being that you were conditioned into, created, whether it was through your own doing or the doing of your society, culture, family, you thought that was you.
Exactly.
And this struggle comes along and takes you out. So this person who had a certain identity, a certain way of being in control over her world, and she could do anything and she's going to be back on her feet in 2 hours, discovers that that's not who she is really. Right. And this struggle opens up the grace. And I want you to define what you mean when you say grace, right? It opens up the grace for you to learn that that's not who you were. So your being was going to be developed. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Being unfolds. Being unfolds us. Being is our soul. And ego psychology kind of proves this to us, that when we're newborn babies, we're in contact with the full experience of the ground of being. That's who we are. That's why we love babies. We love to, touch them and squeeze them and smell and look at them, because they are everything. They're all of it. And then, kind of as the mind comes online, it starts to have some ideas about things. And when we experience pain or hurt or struggle or suffering as a child, the mind comes online and it says, don't do that again. be this way, or this is going to happen. And those very ideas, you think of what an idea is, a thought form. An idea is not direct knowing. It's disconnected from the ground of being. So this
Say
unit,
that again. Yeah.
the
Say that
thought
one more time.
forms are ideas. They're ideas, and what they are is they're ideas about who we take ourselves to be. So they're ideas about a self-image or a self-identity of who we are, but they're never in, ever. Behind those ideas, and this is why I use the term grace, grace is the ground of being. It's everything. We are everything. You know, I used to think, who is this guy, Steve Hardison, when he talks about and he says, I am the universe. Everyone is. I will tell you, like, categorically, everyone is everything. It is only our thoughts that have us believe anything inconsistent with that. It's inconceivable how any of us are not utterly perfect, exactly as we are.
I'm bringing to mind Lisa Feldman Barrett's work on emotions. She says that we feel depression when we fail to live up to our own ideals.
Yeah.
We feel anxiety when we fail to live up to the ideals we think others have for us. And the construct in all of this that I'm hearing in your thread that you're weaving through this is that it's all made up. Every bit of who we think we are is an ideal. And it has nothing to do with our true beingness, like you would see with a child or an infant or a Steve Hardison who says, I am the universe.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And what that, you know, if you really let that, you know, all the people that are listening here, if we really let that land with us, it means anything's possible. Anything. It's just your ideas might be inconsistent with that.
So tie me into uncertainty, because you got into this space where you had a surgery that immobilized you, made you powerless, so that you could find your power. And you're facing the unknown.
Well, to recognize that I am supported no matter what I do. But from that, it means like, so this thing of like, you know, I'm not supported in life resulted in me always proving to people that I could do everything on my own. I'm sure there's lots of people out there listening that have this same thing. Yeah, I can go it on my own. I'm super powerful. You know, I can do anything. But you're still moving between two things which are really low-grade vibrations. Either I can do it all myself or I'm not supported. And that was my life, moving between the pendulum of those two things. So when I got to the bottom of that, like landing in that beautiful, the grace of utter helplessness, to discover that the nature of like, I'm supported no matter what I do. Why? Because it's all around me. It's just I haven't seen it, because at some point in my life, that little infant in me had a feeling, pre-verbal feeling, that she wasn't supported. And her whole idea prevented her from seeing and experiencing supports everywhere. And, you know, once you recognize that, you get in the river of life of support. I can tell you, I had everything began flowing in. Money flowed in, you know, clients flowed in, friendships flowed in, everything flowed in, because I'm supported.
You are only always supported. See, the idea of grace, I think of the word gracias, right? Like the grace, the gratitude, the expression of, like you say, that reclamation of being, that returning to our worth and value is already established. It's like you take you, Martine, and you're this amazing, incredible, universal soul. You are that. And we put it into a body that is a lower vibration. It is heavier, right? And then we take that body and we put it into an even lower vibration by thinking of ourselves as limited.
Yeah.
So we take all of that and we bring it down and we condense it down to this really finite, heavy, low vibration of I'm not worthy of being served. I'm not worthy. Nobody supports me. And it brings you down even further. But you have this realization that that's not you.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. And you know what this has, I'm talking about health, but there's people I know who are joining the call today that, you know, are interested in business, This applies in the same thing. And no matter what problems we're seeing out there, those problems live in here first. And I'll just share with you, if I may, a quick story about
Yes, please. Yeah.
Danny. So Danny he's on the call. He's my partner, and Danny grew up in the north of England, one of 9 children. They didn't ask the question when they came home from school, "What's for dinner?" It was, "Is there any dinner?" So, very different circumstances to which I grew up in. Now, he's an entrepreneur. He started an incredible healthy snacking business just over a year ago now. And he was struggling with not being able to stay committed. And if there's any other entrepreneurs on the call right now, it's really hard before the world reflects back to you that you've got a great idea, that your product's wonderful. You're in it on your own. So he was in it on his own, wondering, why can I not stay committed? Why can I, not find my mojo, my commitment every single day for this venture? And we had a beautiful conversation over dinner, and I recognized there that he wasn't valuing the time and the energy and the effort that he was putting into this venture, because he was still coming from a place inside of himself that he had to prove his self-worth because of where he came from. So when we started to work on that, him being able to see that what would give his life meaning, not how would he make the business successful, what is it that would give his life meaning? And he confronted that thing of not being somebody who felt that they were valuable and trying to prove to the world through that business that he was. And we said, well, what if this business was a stage for you to make the contribution to the world that your life has set you up to do? So that business now has a mission that fuels every activity and every person involved, which is to feed 1 million kids a year. So can you see automatically how, and he feels his own value in that, because all of a sudden the context of this gives his life meaning. So before that, where he came from a place of lack of value, I haven't enough, I need to hide from people that I've come from this particular place with no food, to this is where I've come from. This is who I am, and I don't need to be limited by that. I can have that be the launch pad of my life, and I can let other people know that no other kid needs to be hungry.
This is beautiful, because there's this thought that for us to overcome our conditioning, that we need to create conditions to overcome our conditioning. And then those conditions become the rule set that we think we have to follow to do something great.
Yeah.
So in his world, he's got to overcome, doesn't have to, but decides, I need to overcome this conditioning so that I can do something great.
Yeah.
Then we get stuck in that overcoming something rather than creating something, right?
Right, exactly.
Is that necessary?
I would say, and this is where I see a lot of coaches out there trying to help clients be in the future place that they need to be.
Yeah.
My invitation to people, everyone who's listening, is be right where you are.
Yeah.
Be right where you are in this moment. And if you're struggling with something, a sense of self, a sense of identity, feel it. Feel it fully. Be in it fully. And and this is where you move from the idea about who you take yourself to be. So if there's shame, I feel ashamed of where I've come from. Then if I feel into the direct knowing of that via the shame, I discover who I really am. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but you move from the idea of who you are into the felt experience of the shame in the body. And when you stay with the shame in the body, you recognize, gosh, I'm not this idea that I had. And this feeling, whilst it might be really scary because I've tried to move away from being ashamed my whole life, now I'm landing right in the center of it. And it's okay to stay right here where I am. And this is what we're always doing. We're trying to strategize and find a way out of feeling the feelings that grace and guidance is asking us to feel, because it reveals to us, this is who you are. You don't need to escape it. This is like the lessons are going to emerge right out of it, like, cracking open a nut. Your beauty is going to emerge right out of it.
Yeah.
There you go. There is no shame in that, because I just discovered the truth of who I am, and it's flipping beautiful. And that's what's happened with him
There's
and
a,
so many people.
there's a book that I'm listening to called Change Your Mind by RJ Spina.
Right.
And he talks about going back to, wherever you are. We don't want to be where we are, but we are where we are. So no matter how much we want to not be where we are where we are. So you can't help but be where you are, right? So we have to navigate. Well, if I'm uncomfortable in this upset that I'm feeling, then I have a chance to really explore, like, where does this come from? This being that I think I am. Like, you had a way of being that you thought you were. Why do I have that? And
Yeah.
and the question again, why? And to go through the emotions, the thoughts, the actions, and the behaviors that we have around this way of being that we thought that's who we were.
Yeah.
But when, like you say, you really sit in the emotion of it,
Yeah.
all of that just strips away, and you notice you're none of that. You're
Right.
not any of those things,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You're
And
something
this
beyond
is
it.
why I really wanted to talk about this thing. This is the hidden
Yeah.
grace struggles. And I put out a post today on socials to say, our struggle is our PDP and our personal development plan for our soul. Your
Mhm.
struggles are so bespoke to you. It's every one of your struggles is your invitation back to the being that you are. It's
Mm.
the things that you need. It's the things that you need to discover about yourself that are not the ideas that you have about who you take yourself to be.
Mm.
So if you're willing to take the big bold step to be with the feelings that you're there when your mind tells you who you are, and they're not like, I'm not confident, I'm not good enough, I'm
Yeah.
sick, I'm dying or whatever. If you got the courage to stay with those and to feel it, you reconnect your soul with the grounded being. And when we
Mm.
talk about the inner journey home, the possibility, it's for our soul to know itself fully. That's
Mm.
consciousness recognizing who it actually is, grounded in a human body in this lifetime.
And when you become that, I love the distinction that when we help people, or we the distinction between serving and helping, right? Helping is a lower power, like they can't do it for themselves, and to fix things, it indicates that they're broken, but to serve indicates that they're whole.
Yeah.
And that we can serve them where they are. And when you get into that beingness, when you really get to that soul level of who you are, and you come from that space, and I believe you do that. And I believe a lot of people on here, Steve Hardison does that. When you come from the soul and you serve people, you don't recognize them as needing help, and you don't recognize them as being broken.
No. You see the light in every single human being, no matter what who they're being in the world. You see it in them because you know who they are. They may not have accessed in themselves who they really are, but we can see it in people. And I'd say as teachers and as coaches, we have a really important role in that, is when somebody gets in contact with the direct knowing of who they are, it's to help them trust that new emerging seed that is sprouting. Because I'm going to share with you another story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, my journey's been one of learning through my karma around health. And in 2019, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. It was during the time that I was working with Steve. And I don't know if we've got Daryl Scott on the call today, but I thank him for his beautiful guidance in this. But when I was diagnosed with cancer, the first thing I went to, another efforting move on my behalf, was I researched everything I possibly could about cervical cancer. I even called a couple of girlfriends of mine who had gone through cancer and said, I want to know the warts and all facts and information about what's going to happen to me when I go through the chemo and the radiation, everything like that. And one of my girlfriends said to me, by far the very worst thing that you're going to experience is that your fingernails are going to rot, and the smell of that and the look of that is just, more than you'll be able to tolerate. And I kind of wanted all the facts and information so that I could be prepared to go through it. And then I met with Daryl, and I said to him, look, I know I can do this. And he said, Martine, I know you can do it as well. But the question is, how do you want to be as you go through this? And it was one of those beautiful moments. It was like, I hadn't even thought about that question, which is a being question. Who do I want to be as I'm going through cancer treatment? And I mean, again, like sometimes we're forced to really get out of our heads. And I was looking outside. It was a beautiful sunny day in July. And I saw the clouds in the sky. And my daughter and I, one of the things that we used to do when she was little was we would take the beanbags outside into the garden. And we would lie on the beanbags looking up at the sky together. And we would see what animals and things we could see in the sky. And something amazing about clouds is they're forever changing. And some days they're there and some days they're gone. So what I said to Daryl was, how do I want to go through this? Who do I want to be as I go through it? I want to be cloud-like. So the doctors that I saw became the cloud doctors. And for a long time, I stayed in the meditation and the contact with what is it? What is the being of being cloud-like? Several weeks later, when I went for the operation to have the tumor removed, it wasn't there. They could see the site of where the tumor was, but the tumor was gone.
Holy cow.
And I want to share with you what I think is really important for us as coaches to recognize the importance of shining a light on people's lessons that they get. The immediate thing that happened after that, and I'm sure everyone's the same when you have moments of like miraculous happen or brilliant things happen, is right after that doubt comes in.
Yeah.
The doubt is, well, did I really do it? Did I have anything to do with it? It's like the ground of being does everything. It creates health and the mind creates unhealth. But the important thing is, like, what I learned was that we need to reinforce for people to identify with the ground of being. So if you identify with the self that has the illness, etc., I am this person, I have cancer, I am, XYZ, we're identifying with an image, a self-created image. But if we know that the recipe for success over here is the ground of being, well, I better get in contact and recognize and identify with the ground of being. So I spend a lot of time, and I know other people do as well, not paying so much attention to my mind, but what is it like to experience being as it's emerging right now?
I want to highlight that.
Yeah.
As it's emerging, I think Richard Litvin said that your visions aren't where you're going, it's what's coming from you.
Yeah.
As it's emerging ties into that. It's an expression of what's coming from you. Some people have a hard time with affirmations of I am this. They don't see it yet.
Yeah.
But as an emergence, they could say, I am becoming, right?
Exactly.
I am becoming.
Yeah.
And it becomes an emergence, and they put their faith and trust into that.
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful. And there's two important things I think in that is one of it is like, what we inquire into expands. I inquired into cloud-like. How do I want to go about my life? In every way right now, I go about it cloud-like. I did go about it muscling through. I'm sure a lot of people out there are brilliant musclers through things. I certainly, and I still have the capacity to muscle when I choose to. But actually, as I began to inquire into, I am cloud-like, then the intelligence of the ground of being starts to inform my system of what that is. And that's a powerful metaphor to hold yourself as being cloud-like when you've got cancer.
I like it. Yeah. Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah,
it's an idea.
Sure.
The idea that what you can control is you as the gardener. If I use the garden as an analogy, what you can control is your health as a gardener. What you can control is planting the seed. What you can control is weeding the garden and nurturing the seeds, giving them water and nutrients as needed. The rest of it's going to come from the earth, the sky, whatnot. What you cannot control. You can't control the timing. and you
Yeah.
can't control the fruits. You don't know how many tomatoes that tomato plant's going to produce. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like we get stuck in this idea of efforting. Like I'm going to control even the amount of fruit that comes out of this thing and when it comes about. And in this case, you didn't have any of that. You clouded essentially this judgment.
Yeah. I mean, you asked me to describe grace. Grace works on its own time. And I think it's our job to be in awe and wonder. Like, set your true north. My intention is this. And then take your hands off the reins and be in a state of awe and wonder. And the reason why we want to be in awe and wonder, because then we can be with true nature. We can be with our being in a way that it can inform us. It's like we can.
That's big right there.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And the important thing is, like, if you allow being to inform you, it actually tells you what you need in each and every moment.
Oh, that's big. That's big because we think we need to inform it.
And that's a lack of trust, though. That's the thing I spoke to before. It's like, if I don't trust being in the messages and the next right step that I'm being told inside of me that I need to take, if I don't trust that, we start to identify again with this kind of separate sense of self, who I take myself to be, and then I become the doer of all things again. In the background, there's this other voice, this vast intelligence that creates everything, that actually does everything. Like, sync up with that. I've said, get your hands and your head on the ground to that. Like, be guided by that. Some people call it the unconscious. Some people call it the mystery, the universe, whatever it is. Be curious about that.
Okay, so I heard a thought this week about trust is peace. Trust as peace, right? And trust, the word means a confident expectation that something's going to turn out, or you can count on something a certain way. And that trust brings peace. And that peace is what we're after. And that peace, here you are with news that for many people would define them.
Yeah.
And they would lose their peace over that news, that information.
Yeah.
And instead, when this man asks you, how would you like to be? You decide, this is how I would like to be inside of this, which created a trust and a cloud-like fashion and peace around it. You no longer had to figure this out. You no longer had to effort through this to find the solution. Am I hitting on something there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say trust is, how am I going to express this? Trust is when your head and your heart sync up. Because then you know truth. Like, we don't, when somebody says, I'll tell you what the truth is, we don't trust the words that they say. We trust the feeling that we get from inside of them. And when somebody trusts themselves, they're in their heart, or their head and their heart seem to be like synced up or congruent together. And that to me is trust, because no longer is the head running the show. The heart's running the show, and it's feeling the truth of what's unfolding right now. And the head then serves the heart. But it doesn't work the other way around. That's trust. Because if you ever try and tell yourself to trust yourself, you don't. Trust this situation, trust this person. It's like, no, I need to feel trust. And when I feel it, the reason I feel it in my heart.
Trust
and then
isn't a construct.
My head catches up and says,
yes,
that can be trusted. Why? Because I know it through direct experience. So when I know the moment, the absolute moment that things turned around, shifted with my health. It was before I went back and saw the surgeon who was going to perform the operation. I know now the exact moment where I went, I'm going to be okay. I knew it. I felt it. But my head was the source of doubt. It's like, don't be ridiculous. You're going in to have an operation in a few weeks' time on this. Only to have them confirm when I got there was no tumor. But I knew it, but I didn't trust and listen. So if there's, something I can leave with people out there today is trust yourself, trust the ground of being. If you feel it inside of you, feel it in your heart and your head's like doubting you, ask yourself, what's it like now to feel truth? What's it like to be in contact with the truth? What is the truth of nature right now? And let your heart be kind of doing its judgy thing, but know that you're into something.
Can I share a quote by Einstein here? I think it ties in. He says, any fool can know. The point is to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that, the head is a receptacle for thoughts and thinking, and knowledge is old. Knowing is live in the moment. It's like, and this is the thing, the awe and the wonder. Can I be in the awe and the wonder of what I'm discovering, I'm knowing right now? This is like live, fresh knowing. And this is like when we get inspired by people, and we get inspired even by ourselves, because we're knowing something afresh for the first time. It's not because we've known something, we've read about it, we've digested it, we're pulling it out of this,
You just got some knowledge in there, right? It's not that.
Yeah. But
the knowing.
Being wants to know itself, and the way it does it is through us. Can you see the beauty of a human life there?
It's amazing.
It only knows itself through us. What a gift.
I heard mentioned that when we know, we no longer have a need for faith or trust or belief, because when we know something, we don't need those. Those come from a fear of not knowing.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, or do you have a view around that?
100%. Yeah, we spend so much of our lives. I think our society and community is set up to kind of worship how much we know. It disconnects us again. It disconnects us from the mystery of what we don't know. I mean, that's what I'm interested in. Being with you right now is I get to know you right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm awake and I'm inspired and I'm excited. I'm not, scratching around in my office here trying to find, what had I planned to share. It's like I know you, and this conversation is fresh and evolving. And
well, we talked about it flowing like a river, and you are the river, and you are also the bank of this river. And this is the sampling of Martine, of you in your world, and this is just a fraction of what's there. I look at these conversations as, and we all have them. My son taught me the word sondering, right? That every person that you meet has a life as complex as yours. And when we sonder, like what we're doing today, and we really get curious, there's no limit to what we can learn from another human. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I learn from every single person that I have the grace and the blessing to be with. What a gift.
I hear in your journey, when we look at the struggle, the grace and struggle, the hidden grace and struggle. And what I think struggle does is it humbles us. And that word humility means to be teachable. And that had you not had this struggle, you might not have been teachable at that point. It might have come somewhere else, but you wouldn't have been teachable at that point. And you would have carried on this dialogue in your mind, this creation that you are unsupported.
Yeah.
And that might have carried for years before you woke up to the idea. And that struggle was what woke you up to. That's not true. Not in the sense you're using it anyway. Does that make sense?
100%. And you know what? I think being knocks on our door, and it knocks on our door, and it knocks on our door, and it gets louder and louder and louder until we get to the threshold where we can't do it anymore. Not in the way we've been accustomed to doing it. And that's, I think, the greatest gift that we're going to get with our struggles. Like I'd say, great, bring them on. My struggles are my PDP plan of my soul to get back to knowing who I really am. So being humble is recognizing you've got it perfect right now. whatever you need to learn in life is coming right to you. And life will knock you about if you're not willing to learn at some point, is my experience.
I've got an off question here.
Go on.
If and this is out there a little bit, if you chose that for your experience before you ever got here, you decided I really want to learn this.
No.
And maybe that's not your belief system. That's okay. But if, as a possibility, if you chose that, this is what I want to learn, then it will knock on your door until you learn it.
Yeah.
And here you had this experience that for many people would have been devastating news, that would have been the end in their world of them, right? Became the opportunity for learning and growth.
Yeah.
And instead of judging or justifying yourself for where you were, you chose to learn from it and grow from it, which to me sounds like the purpose you intended to create in this journey anyway. Is that accurate?
It is. And I plumb deeply into life and who I am. And I've had an experience of knowing that my soul chose this journey, this particular one. I maybe had some ideas about how it was going to go, but along the way, I recognize I have no idea how it's going to go. But what I do have some choice in is staying present to the unfoldment of this soul's journey in this lifetime. And there's been moments where I've said, I don't want this. Why are other people fit and healthy and well? Why do I struggle so much with health, etc.? It's so hard. All of those things. Of course, I've had all of those things. I wouldn't at the symptom level choose to have all of those experiences. But every single soul's journey takes us to the same place, that we are everything. We're all going to the same place. There's no wrong journey. There's just the perfect one for you. And it's going to take you back to that you are love. You are grace. You are the universe. You are perfect in every way. How could you be otherwise? I mean, we're talking a big topic.
Yeah, we're going big topic here. And
and you know what? I just want to bring it back to say, it doesn't matter where or what your struggles are. They can be in business. I'm not earning enough money, or I can't get along with the other, executive committee member, or I'm not getting promoted. It's the same. It's your soul inviting you to be in your experience of your life right now, so that you can unwind the contracted parts of yourself that need to be reminded of who you are. And there's freedom, there's fun, there's financial abundance, there's abundance, there's like everything you ever want is all there.
Yeah. And it's unique. It's a fingerprint. Nobody will have your experience, not the way you have it, right? And it's only yours to experience.
Yeah.
And the idea, we had Kit Volcano on our show, and he talked about what's perfect about this moment right now. Well, no matter what it is, no matter how challenging it might seem, what's perfect, what's to be learned. And I think that's the opportunity, the grace in struggle is like you say it. I say uncertainty is how I look at that. But you look at it as the pure essence of being. That when you get into that struggle, your pure essence of being now becomes available to you, and everything is possible. Is that, am I saying that, or am I putting words in your mouth?
That's right. And then there is also certainty in being, because how to say this? There's only uncertainty in the place when we're disconnected, because we don't know who we are. That's our greatest fear, that we don't know who we are, that we're not going to be able to do something when, but in the ground of being, where you are everything, there is no uncertainty.
The certainty comes from the being, not out here.
Yeah.
Is that it?
This, if we're certain of one thing, like this is what I know from my own direct experience, it's like, I'm certain that I am being,
Mm.
and I know that I will, in moments of struggle, feel anything but whole and complete. But that's now I no longer identify with that as being somehow not good enough, not perfect, not smart enough, not fast enough, not whatever enough. I don't believe it. It's laughable because
That's not you. That's not you. Those are sensations of the experience.
exactly. And I
Right?
will struggle with that. And there's my recipe back home. If I can be in the struggle that is in that moment, it will allow me to experience that, get back into direct knowing of who I am. And I want to say to people, we do, seeing some lovely comments.
Yeah.
We do need each other because we've identified, for myself, 48 years of age, we've identified for 48 years of age with a separate sense of self, an individual identity, a construct of thoughts and ideas. Like that's a lot of practice at identifying with something.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you start to shift and go through your struggles and start to feel and experience a direct knowing of who you are, like, all of those things that we are, we need others to help us see that, yeah, we are all of that. And we did take ourselves to be that, but actually we are all of that. And sometimes you just need the person that's a little bit further on in your journey than what you are to reflect back to you, yeah, that is who you are. Not to say, no, you're not like that. You're definitely not that confident person. When you discover, actually, I'm the ground of all knowing, and I feel really confident. Yeah, but hang on, you weren't confident last week. We need someone to go, that's right, that is who you are. And this is the purpose of, Steve, when he works with people with their statements, he will reflect back to people, as any good coach will. They will reflect back to you the knowing that they see who you are. You are that. You're not that. You are that. We need it. We need it. As human beings, we need to be.
We need that reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned 48 years is 420,000 hours. They say it takes 10,000 roughly hours to be an expert at anything. And at 420,000 hours, you've mastered it. So who you think you are. And it doesn't matter when people wake up to whatever is or who they thought they were. It doesn't matter how many times you practice it. The mind, the brain, everything is designed to support you in whatever you repeatedly do. Right. And it doesn't matter where you start. The brain is designed for that. So whether they're 48 or 28 or 68, it doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're not our mind. It's like we're not our thoughts. We're that. So echo what you're saying. It's like the practice is consistently reminding ourselves and identifying with who we really are. I am that. I am all of it.
All of it.
All of it.
And I see you relaxing into it, as you sit back into this in your true essence. I have a question, and this is a question for you to ask a question. If there was one question you wish somebody would ask you, right? Maybe we didn't get to it in the show. You wish somebody would ask this in a podcast, or if they messaged you and said, hey, this, what would that question be? And what would your answer be?
Good question. I think I would want somebody to say something along the lines of, is there anything that's not possible? And it would purely be so that I could be with them to help them recognize that anything for them is possible. It would just be that opportunity to be with any individual to help them see who they really are. Because when you see it and you be it, life is beyond any imaginable beauty, freedom, joy, creativity. And what a job to be a coach, to be able to
reflect that back.
Once they see that, there's no unpopping the popcorn seed.
No, exactly.
Right?
Try and get that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, not happening. I've loved this. I mean, we're at time here. I'm going to pull Rose back in for just a minute here. But I want to, I would love you to share with the person on the other side of the screen why you think they should attend UK. Is that okay to ask? Like, why should they attend that?
That's to me, Nick.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you have an incredible lineup of speakers at that event who have invested themselves for a long period of time in knowing about the ground of being. And each of us has a different view or facet or understanding that can be a gateway into any individual that comes there, discovering and being more of who they really are. I mean, it's not to just overcome your struggles, it's to find out, who am I? Who am I really? That's the possibility for anyone. And there's, we can offer somewhat of a methodology. It's not a complete methodology, but it's a way to get a handle on, if you're asking yourself, like, how do I begin? Like, this sounds great. I want to be with my struggles and have it be effortless and all the rest of it. It's a way to get a handle on this pot for yourself. And that's it. Once you get a handle on that pot and you start to discover what's possible for you in any area of your life, your leadership, your relationships, you will not put the pot down. You will not. That's why we're here.
I think of Rumi. Yeah. The crack or the fracture is where the light comes in. And at this event, it's going to be one of those ways that you don't know which of these lights is going to shine into you, but one of these lights is going to get into you. It is going to change who you think you are forever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
And once that happens, you don't stop. I think that's it. When we kind of wake up to the possibility that we are, you can't stop. I can't anyway. So.
Yeah. I love it. Rose, I know you're in the background listening in. I'd love to hear just some of your thoughts and reflections as we wrap up here. And are you okay? Is everybody okay for a few more minutes here?
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Rose, if you don't mind, like what would you like to reflect about what you heard today?
I think the one thing I just would love to share is how I've experienced Martine since getting to know her as she's been asked to come and speak at the event. And we had a beautiful one-to-one call, and it was just gorgeous. And she was in recovery from a recent surgery. And what I've sensed and what I've experienced from being with Martine is that she walks her talk, like in every single moment. And that's true of every single one of the speakers. And still, when Martine has seen or sensed there's been some like disconnect in a communication, she was the first person to get on the phone and call me and check in with like how I was and what was really going on, and asking gentle questions to see like where I was at in something that was being presented. And that really takes something. That's someone really special. And that's the kind of love and care that she brings, but that you get to sense in a conversation with her now through this masterclass, but also being in her presence and every other single one of the speakers' presence in the event. And it's that, I've mentioned this before, and I'll keep saying it, it's that intangible, palpable quality of when others are so settled and at ease in who they are, like how they, whatever's showing up for them, and just accepting it in that moment, all the thinking drops away and you just have full permission to drop into the same space. And that is magic. And that's what's available through these masterclasses, but also in the live events, be it Birmingham, be it in Arizona, be it wherever it is that you end up going. And that's priceless. You meet yourself in a way that you didn't realize you were there the whole time. So I really want to reflect that back. I've got that hugely here. And I loved the final bit that you talked about around when you're feeling all the sensations, the emotions that can come up, and that you're just really honest and saying, no, yeah, and I can feel like I'm not whole and complete in that moment, and that is the pathway home. I think that for me just is just everything. It's everything, because that's in those moments where it's so easy to start identifying with thought and getting caught up. And the pathway home is what we love.
Rose, what you're saying there is sometimes, we especially in the B movement, we want to be the best we can be, and sometimes that is a cover up for how we really are.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a chance in any moment when I'm feeling a bit off center to not fake it, to not fudge it, to get really real. And that's I honor you having spent time with you for the ability to get really real so that you could discover who you really were.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Martine, any final words before we wrap up?
No, it's just beautiful to see all the people online here. I'm so looking forward to meeting everyone that I possibly can. And it's been such a joy, Nick, to be with you and Rose. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Everything that came out of your mouth was new to me. I didn't know anything about you coming into this.
Yeah.
So I got to learn about you, and I love who you are as a human. Like, thank you so much for sharing what you did today. It gives us permission, not that we need permission. We already have permission. We came with permission.
Yeah, the day we popped out.
Yeah. So letting that go of we don't need permission but you gave it. You demonstrated it. You shared what we're all seeking, which is that peace, which is getting back to who we were before the world got a hold of us. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope people can see in what we're trying to create here. We're not trying to just sell you another program here. We're really trying to help you see who you are as a human, your potential, your power. Yeah. And if you can see that, you'll see what we're doing and you'll get behind this. Yeah. Because this event is going to happen. I bought my plane ticket already. It's already there. I'm coming to the UK. So it's like, this already is. And so for you that are watching, if you're on the fence around this and you haven't bought your ticket, buy your ticket. Let that be the start point. Yeah. Let that be the spark. Yeah. And then from there, really dive into doing the next step and trust the magic of this universe. I promise you are supported, that the moment you step into that commitment to the thing that you are creating, watch the magic happen. Yeah. It'll blow your mind. Be a cloud.
I'm committed to, I'll be there, obviously speaking at the event. I'm committed to give time to any single person at that event. I'm pretty good at being quick with people, helping people quite quickly. My commitment is to be with everyone I possibly can in that time.
I love it.
To help serve their evolution. Yeah.
Man, thank you. Thank you so much, Martine. You are a blessing to this world. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your wisdom and your philosophies that you shared today and your views of the world. For everybody that's watching, you make these events possible. This came out of an idea from Matt Evans, just thinking I'm going to host this event. Now we have these master classes. They will never be undone. This video will never be undone. And it all stems from that idea. And so for each of you that are watching, we couldn't do it without you. We can't do it without you. We are designed to work socially, collectively. And so help us fill this event. Go get your own ticket as a demonstration of your commitment to be there. And then reach out to somebody that would benefit from this message today and share this video with them and invite them to do the same thing. So we love you. We appreciate you. We will see you in the next masterclass. And of course, we will see you in Birmingham in May of 2024. So go make it a giant day. We'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.